Hello, it is Monday the 17th of February and today is a holiday, market holiday in North America. In the United States it's President's Day, and in Canada it's our holiday as well. So the markets are closed and it's pretty thin liquidity. Normally this week is options expiration week, and if there was not holiday I would expect it to be a pretty bullish week, or a week at least in which the market holds up, and that happens sort of 70%, 72% I think on back testing of the time. And as Bitcoin, becomes more and more kind of mainstream market asset that anyone can trade through ETFs and futures and so on, it's more and more affected by these kind of broader market patterns, if you like. And so I had expected this to be a bullish week for Bitcoin. It is lagging other risk assets at the moment. It's certainly lagging stock indexes, but I am expecting this week to hold up. Let's see. Certainly this kind of sentiment as we start the week is really helping. Now normally there's a bit of a trade, that if you buy the dip on the Friday or the Thursday or the Friday before options expiration week, you can expect a decent bounce that holds into the start of the week at least. But again, with this holiday and it's being everything is kind of off. And so I think with this dip potentially, and it's certainly because the sentiment's so bad at the moment, that we could see a pretty decent bounce for Bitcoin this week. And I'm particularly interested in Ethereum and how it's outperforming. And one of the most exciting things I think is there's such a big short position in Ethereum. I think there's a huge the most popular bet on Deribit is that Ethereum drops down to $2,000 from here. Now those options don't expire to the end of the month, which is not this Friday but next Friday. But the new options on ETFs, which have started in the last 2-3 months, have absolutely exploded in popularity. And so this options expiration week is a really big deal for Bitcoin and Bitcoin ETF positions. There is also, it could be with this massive short position, there's a bit of an arbitrage trade going on here. There does seem to be a bit of a trade going on where Ethereum and Bitcoin as well, but ETFs are bought and there are quite aggressive shorts in the futures, and we'll see how that plays out. But one thing about, if everybody in the options market is betting that Ethereum goes lower from here or goes to 2000, and if it starts to move quite strongly the other way, then the market makers have to chase it. And so we could see a bit of a squeeze if that happens. And I would be and the more I hear about how big the short position is in Ethereum, the more excited I get that we could see potentially a bit of a squeeze going the other way. And quite often people say to me, why are people buying this dog? It's only going to hell. And it's not often people buying it because they think it's going to go up. It's people covering their short positions that give it the rocket fuel for a trade to really kind of get going. And so it would be interesting to see if we can get that in ETH. Now, let's talk about Bitcoin first of all. And my friend Gregor Horvat, he's a really good Elliott Wave trader, and he showed how this is a really interesting chart he shared today about how Nasdaq is outperforming. Really since the start of the year, the Nasdaq and Bitcoin have been trading in kind of lockstep, and they're starting to pull apart. And so potentially we're looking, especially if the Nasdaq is breaking out of this wave 4 wedge consolidation that potentially we could see a move higher in Bitcoin. It's been really choppy, and it could be that we spend the whole of this quarter until the end of March being very choppy in Bitcoin. But at the moment, with this sentiment and these moves, I think we are potentially setting up for a bit of a bounce this week, and we'll see how we go from here. One thing about options expiration in the ETFs and in the spot in Deribit is once you get to the bottom of the range, they will likely defend it. And so let's see what happens. It's only when it goes wrong that it kind of gets really ugly and we see some quite volatile moves. So let's start then with Bitcoin, and then we'll talk about meme coins. So here we are sideways. I have been saying ever since we had this really aggressive bounce at the beginning of the month that we would have a correction and likely another swing higher, and it's all a matter of when is it going to happen. When I look at this on a 4-hour chart here, it looks to me like we've had our kind of 3-wave correction, and I'm just waiting for this next leg higher to begin. And with these little moves come smaller and smaller, but I'm now looking at this little consolidation here, and I think, a breakout from this little small 4-hour descending channel that we've kind of been in since the weekend, since Saturday. We had a really decent bounce in a lot of assets in crypto on Friday. Even, absolute dog shit like Trump coin bounced really, really hard on Friday and then got absolutely killed by this Argentinian Libra coin. I am starting to get a bit upset with these scams. They're absolutely killing Solana, and they're just extracting too much, from the market. I think it's not good news at all. But I'm watching this in Bitcoin. I think that if this little descending channel that we've been in since Saturday pops to the upside, that we start our next leg higher. And I think if we're going to do it, this would be the week. And so I'm watching this on the 4-hour to see the next turn higher. For me, I've got, you can use Heikin-Ashi, wait for it to go green and break out from this consolidation. And I think from here, we should see another swing higher. But again, the most exciting thing for me has been what we have seen in ETH and how ETH is outperforming. Because if we look at this daily candle here in Bitcoin and this, really a couple of days of really nasty moves lower, let's take a look at this, then we have seen the opposite, if you like, in Ethereum. We've seen a really great aggressive bounce off the lows since in the last 2 weeks, and we've really traded very nicely sideways in a little bit of a bottoming pattern. One of the things I always look at, is when you hold a 50% retrace back, which we have done perfectly here, you kind of consolidate, at kind of 50% or mean reversing, just say correction to me rather than we're going to keep going lower. And we've bounced really nicely from this 50% back. And again, I'm looking for this one to go higher. And for me, I think that this week, ETH is a better bet than Bitcoin because it's outperforming. And that's, true of a lot of altcoins. When I look at those, I look at the ones that outperform when stuff isn't looking very good. Because when stuff starts turning higher and everything goes higher, I'm looking for it to outperform. And the same here with Bitcoin. With Ethereum, I would love to see a good short squeeze in this one. There's a few charts that make me excited about this one. Let's take a look at ETH against Bitcoin. So if we take a look at this on the weekly, I've been looking at this for quite some time. And the fib retrace levels in this one to see, and we have dropped underneath this 786 fib, and we dropped down to the 886, which is a very common fib retrace level. And we can see in this ETH that the other ones were really well respected. But that also means that we have an upside target, that if we get above in this ETH Bitcoin, we have bottomed in this really nasty declining wedge that we've been in since 2022 here on this weekly chart break. So here we are on the daily. You can see ETH outperforming Bitcoin very nicely, and this is our first target then, up here at 0.03, and above 0.03 in this daily 50 moving average. I think that we should see a much bigger move. I would argue perhaps we could push this a little bit higher intraday and say we need to really take out this swing high here, a little bit higher at 0.33, which would reverse the trend. So we would look to get up here and then hold above this daily 50 to keep going higher. But for now, this is one of the strongest moves really that ETH has made against Bitcoin in quite some time. And another chart that I think is really interesting for ETH outperformance is Solana against ETH. So Solana is getting really nice hit badly by what is going on with these meme scams. But if we look at Solana against ETH, this one made a new high, and at the moment it is bouncing very nicely from these weekly 20 moving average, which has been pretty good support. But if we were to lose this, I think that we have got, for me, this is done from the low here in December 2022, 5 waves up. And when you complete 5 waves up, you usually come back to the bottom of the previous wave 4. So for me, this has got further to fall. If we go down to the daily, we've lost the daily 50 moving average. And if we just do an ABC correction here in Solana against ETH, that brings us down here to 0.055 in this. So this has further to fall. So for me, I think, against all of the other bigger assets, ETH does look like it's got a chance. And I like it again. Certainly I like it better than Bitcoin and Solana at this point. So Solana, ETH and Bitcoin, for me this week, the one that I am going to be looking for is more follow through on in ETH. Okay, the next one, let's take a look at, now we've looked at Bitcoin, let's take a look at MicroStrategy, because I think it's quite a good leading indicator for Bitcoin. And here you can see we're going sideways, we've got a slightly higher low. I was watching on Friday to see if we could get above this daily 20 moving average, which really, for the last 6 times we've tested it from the underneath, we have not been able to get above it since the end of January. Back above it gives us at least another leg higher here. Here we've done 1, 2, 3 from the low that we made at the end of December. We've had 3 waves back, and I'm looking for a bigger A, B, C correction like Bitcoin. Not quite sure that this is the low for a new swing to new highs yet, but certainly this week another swing higher and a close and hold above this daily 20 moving average does it for me, and that is at 338 in MicroStrategy. So where are we likely to go from this low to high? I'm going to measure here like this, and I have 2 targets this way from this low. My first one on the upside is 382, and the second one is 428, which puts us back in the middle of this range, back at these highs, and that would be an equal measured move from this low. So 382, we've got to get through these daily moving averages, but 382 and 428 for MicroStrategy. Obviously, if we can't get it back above this daily 20 moving average, all bets are off, and we're going to stay in this really nasty sideways range that we've really been in now for nearly 3 weeks. So in MicroStrategy. So that's how I'm seeing that one. Let's take a look. So we've looked at ETH and ETH Bitcoin. I really do favour ETH this week. Solana is getting hit pretty hard, as I think. As I said, let's take a look at Solana against the US dollar, because I would argue this is kind of better bullish sideways consolidation. But today we lost a really nasty level with what's gone on with this Libra coin. If we go out to the weekly, these fib levels in Solana, and I've gone all the way from the low here, 0 to the high that we made in January 2025, and these fib levels, if we look on lower time frames, are really nicely respected, so I'm going to lean on them. This 236 fib gave us a really nice bounce. This 38.2 gave us a huge bounce, and this is also where the daily 20 moving average is sitting, and it's also where these previous lows are, and this is what we have dropped underneath today. So 182 in Solana becomes pretty important resistance, and I really do think this is the Trump and the Libra effect. And so only if we get back above this daily 200 moving average and this 182 level are we going to double bottom and see a bit of a bounce from here. Otherwise, I think if we zoom out here, I had a bit of a level here at this previous swing low on the 13th of January and this back test of this 61.8 fib level. and that's at 168. But really, for me, the next support is a 50% retrace, which is down here at 147. So, unfortunately, further to fall from Solana against US dollar unless we can hold and regain 182 in that one. ETH is for sure looking like a better bet at the moment than Solana, unfortunately. Now, the one that's not looking too bad at all is ADA. Let's take a look at why here. If we go to the weekly in ADA, this one has bounced from, you know, I'm always measuring the corrections. This has bounced from a textbook ABC equal measured move. So I measured from this high to this low, projected it from here. This was the level that we bounced from at 0.602, and it was also the weekly 50 moving average. And here we are bunched up in between these moving averages. But the thing about when you draw an ABC and you get underneath this 61.8 level is when you back test it, if you get back above it, it's at 0.818, then that confirms this three-wave correction and says that we're on our way up again. And if you do that, so if you get above this back test of this 0.618 level, the most normal move is from the whole ABC three-wave move is a 786 level. So that would mean that if we get above these highs here, I've taken the wrong one off. Hold on, let's do that again. Here we go. Our target is up here at 1.15. So if we can hold above 0.828, first target is 1.15. And so if we look at this on the daily, we can see this is the level. So we've got a really nice trade if we can do that. There's a few ways you can do this. You can set an alarm to see if it breaks above. For me, I like to look at this on a lower time frame. So on an hourly or a 15-minute, and I'll watch it to see if it, because I like to lower my risk. So we get above, I'll watch and see if we pull back and find support and don't close underneath it, because then I'm wrong if we go back underneath and then I'm long here. That's the trade that I'm looking for. So I'm watching ADA. I think we could have a decent bounce in this one again. I'm interested this week in the ones that are going to outperform, and ADA is one of them, and ETH I prefer definitely over Solana or Bitcoin or some of these other coins. I still see Ripple in bullish consolidation sideways, but if we look at the weekly moving averages in this one, you know, you can't argue with this. We've held the previous swing low, we've held the weekly 20 moving average, and we're doing that 50% thing, and by that I mean, let's zoom out here. If a market pulls back to the 50%, it's usually corrective and it's going to keep going. For example, from this high in January in 2018 to the low in 2020 in Ripple, we bounced 50%. And so for me, that's quite a normal kind of mean reversion thing. And as if we can't go beyond that 50%, we were still going down. And sure enough, we did a big three-wave correction, and then before we did another leg higher. And here in Ripple, we're doing pretty much the same thing. So if we go all the way back, say this low here, from this whole swing, where we bounced from was exactly this 50% level here in the middle, around 1.8, 1.85. And so what I expect then for it to do is then 50% and do that consolidation. So for me, it's still corrective. We haven't stopped going down. I know it's a nasty retrace, but we're just doing that sideways thing. And, you know, we could argue here, look, from this high, I think we've gone beyond it. We're doing that in the middle here with the 61. This 50% now is here, 2.59. I'd like to see if that holds. But the problem with this in the 61, 38, 2 ranges, we could go sideways in the middle here, and we've got completely flat daily moving averages. So not a bearish reversal yet, but we really don't have the uptrend that we're looking for. We're kind of stuck here in the middle. So if you're a long-term holder, I don't see any reason to. You could lower your position, or you could take. I've said before, you know, none of this means anything unless you pay yourself at the highs, or you pay yourself. Otherwise, you know, you just end up giving it all back. You need to be careful. So I don't see this as a, big easy sell in Ripple. I see this as sideways consolidation in a really strong uptrend, and I think that we do still have another leg higher when this wave 4 is over, but it could take some time. Now, some of these meme coins, the older school ones, I think, as I said before, don't look too bad at all. So in those, I mean Doge is one of them that I think has made a really textbook correction here. So let's look at this one on the daily and why. It's pulled back to the daily 200 moving average, and it's made a textbook equal measured move correction. So this high, this low here are equal to this swing here. As you can see, that's where we bounced from. This was my downside target. So if we apply the same rules, so if we measure from this high to this low and projected it from here, then the confirmation that we're going up again is if we get back above this 618 back test level. So that is a 0.296. So I would expect some kind of sideways trading. Here we are in between this support. When we're ready to go up again, back above 0.296 would say we're on our way in this one. If we can't get above it, then we are just going sideways, and we could still see another leg higher. But if you buy pullbacks in this one, that's going to be your first target, 0.296. So about this equal measured move, I should really explain again how I draw it. So if you use this tool, so it's in this here, trend-based fib extension, right? So if you draw it like this, let's show you what it looks like when you first put it on. If you go back to apply defaults, you'll see it looks like this, and you go, oh, what the hell is she talking about? So when I pull this up, what I do is I fiddle with it. So I'll take out all the ones I don't want, which is just the 618, the equal measure move, 1.618, 2.618, and I use the 1272, and then I make it all one color so it looks, I can see what I'm looking at. I don't like thick lines, so I make it thinner. I get rid of the background, and I extend the lines right. Okay, so there, that's how I've drawn it. You might have to watch that again. So measure this first swing, high to low, project it from this high where we rolled over here. So this is where I get the 61.8 back test level from, and here's my equal measure move, 1272. 1.618 would be my target if we continue lower and back to these swing lows, which would be quite dire. But at the moment, this is holding the 200 moving average. This has showed that the buyers are interested. It's really exciting. Equal measure move level. So the retest is the test. And crypto loves to make double tops and double bottoms and retests. So the retest here is the retest of this 200-day, first of all, this on the daily, or the lows, I think are really interesting levels to watch for a pullback long entry with this equal measured move pattern. And as I said before, quite a few of these altcoins have made the same pattern. Pepe has made the same pattern as well. ABC equal measured move in this one. I'm just trying to find, I can't remember where I hit it. Pepe, here it is. We'll go to the daily of Pepe. If we go to the weekly, in fact, just like Doge. So this one was a textbook ABC equal measure move. Unlike Doge, this one is underneath important weekly moving averages, so they become our first target that we've got to get back above. But we've seen a really nice bounce off the low of our target level in Pepe here, and then really cool sideways consolidation. Again, the retest is the test, so watching to see what happens when we retest 79.45 in Pepe, for me, I think it's also a pretty interesting buy level. Okay, I've got a few more coins and coin requests to look at, so let's take a look at some of those. But as you know, I'm always interested in the outperformers. So in the AI space, and these coins are being absolutely clobbered. Let's take a look at Fartcoin, and you can see what I mean. Again, this one had a pretty interesting low here from the highs in November that I was looking to see held as support and resistance in altcoin, and we've lost it, and we've lost this swing low from earlier in the month here. I think we have potentially the next support down here at 0.3 and a little bit further to fall in altcoin. Most AI stuff looks pretty terrible. Some of them look quite interesting. For example, this is PAL, P-A-A-L. I'm always interested to see if big fib levels hold or previous lows, and this one is outperforming. This is a weekly chart. No nasty crash in this one. Really nice strong bounce, and now we're making one of those kind of rounded retests. We haven't quite, if we go down to the 4 hour, we haven't quite kind of broken out of this 4 hour bottoming pattern here, but if it does, set an alarm. Again, if this one does that, and here's our kind of bottoming, you always want to be on the outperformers, and this to me looks like one of the ones that is outperforming. We're not there yet. If everything crashes, obviously the outperformers will go down too, but if stuff turns higher this week, then these outperformers are the ones that I want to be on. So in the meme coin space, little one that I like because it supports rescue dogs is BERT. I've talked about BERT before. Let's put this one on and regular fib levels, and we'll talk about why I like BERT. So first of all, if I put my fib retrace levels from the all-time low back in November to the high this one made, each one of these fib levels gave BERT a really decent bounce. Especially here, this 786, huge bounces. But even if you look on the lower time frames, these lower time frame fib levels gave BERT really decent bounces. And so each one of these, as we get to them, I'm really interested in. So this 786, as we pointed out, massive bounce. This 886, again, a massive bounce. This coin looks like nothing here on this 4 hour chart, but this was 100% bounce. And so here we are bouncing. So we bounce from the 886 fib. Remember, the 786 fib is the square root of pi, 61.8, and 886 is the square root of 786. And 942.942 is the square root of 886. So this is like kind of one of those really outside fib levels that sometimes work. And so this is why I've got this one drawn, and this is why I'm watching it. So this one had a really strong bounce. And when I, like last week on, there was one day when of all the dog coins, this one bounced the hardest. So of all of the meme coins that involve dogs, and there's quite a few of them, BERT bounced by far the hardest at the end of last week. So for me, you know, because you know that corrections are always 3 waves, so you go 1, 2, 3 like this, and this correction in the middle is always 3 waves, at least 3 waves, sometimes they're 5. Here's our first bounce. So I'm looking for this 3-wave correction, and then BERT should make another bounce higher. And because look, you know, you can't ignore something. This bounced 100%, right? So if this does this again, this is a really nice, simple, easy trade. And because we've got these fib levels, and which if we go on the daily, you can see here. So if we hold this 5,200 level on a retest, the target for me is 10,200 in BERT. So I'm watching what happens here. If we get a higher low or a retest, and sometimes, you know, in crypto you get these really nasty, when you double bottom, you get these really nasty fake out, make you think swing failure patterns, make you think it's all over. And we could see the same here. That's what we saw here, a little fake out false breakdown. But sometimes this little false breakout signal is, you know, comes sometimes even the best. You know, same thing when you're going up. If you get a false breakout, it does unfortunately mean you're going to get a reversal. So I'm watching to see what happens here, and another leg higher in BERT. And I've got, so again, when we have nasty moves, it's always good to watch out for what's outperforming. And there are so many coins and tokens now. Obviously I can't cover them all, but I'm always looking for the one that outperform on down days, because when we get up days, I'm looking for it to perform even better going the other way. Okay, if there is anything that you would like me to look at that I haven't covered, there are a few that I'm perpetually on my watch list. I'm always happy to look at something I haven't looked at and cover it. Let me know.